It's time now for us to take a look back at this week's headline-making stories in our Reporters Rewind. Our guests at the roundtable today are Nana Ekua Brew-Hammond. She is a style and culture writer whose work has appeared in Ebony Parenting and Jet magazines. We also have back Chloe Angyal, who is a senior columnist at feministing.com and an opinion contributor at Reuters. I happen to know she doesn't like pageants that much either. And Monique John is a blogger and newly named contributing writer for HelloBeautiful.com. Welcome, ladies.
Thank you.
It's always nice to have an all-female panel here. And so it only makes sense then to talk about big issues that have been making the headlines, and that, of course, has been sexual assault. Of course, there is the incident with so-called Jackie on UVA. We'll get to that in a second. I want to talk about this newest accuser of Bill Cosby, Beverly Johnson. I think I'm just going to leave it wide right now. We'll focus as we go along. Nana, let me start with you. Your thoughts?
I think that, you know, the fact that Beverly Johnson came out just goes to give more credibility to the women that have been coming out. I think what's been interesting is that we've been seeing so many people who don't believe the story and so many people who think this is some sort of conspiratorial attack on Bill Cosby. And for Beverly Johnson to come out, I think it just adds, again, you know, more credence to the 20-some-odd women that have come out and said that this is what he's done.
Yeah, when I heard it, I agree with you. I have to say, oh my, it made me look at it differently. Not that I didn't believe these accusations, but there was a lot of room to not believe them than Beverly Johnson.
Yeah, I think it's important, though. We were talking in the green room earlier about how many people still don't believe, but there seems to have been a tipping point. And I'm not sure if it's Beverly Johnson or if it happened earlier, but there has been a tipping point, and there's no going back now. And I think it's important to consider the role of race in how Bill Cosby is being treated in the public eye. I would put good money on the fact that there are plenty of powerful white men who have done exactly what Bill Cosby has done, who will never be held accountable, either in court or in the court of public opinion. But America's cultural history, the cultural imagery of black men as sexual predators, makes it a lot easier for the public generally to imagine Bill Cosby as a sexual predator than if he were a white man.
That is such a provocative and interesting concept, but he was America's dad. He's Bill Cosby.
Absolutely.
I hear you over here.
I mean, it is true, but again, like we were talking about in the green room, I guess the question now is, okay, it's obvious that his persona has been significantly damaged, but what is actually going to happen in the future here? Like, is it actually going to be, you know, as you're saying, if it's a racially stratified issue, is he actually going to be like completely obliterated in terms of that social space, that public recognition and that acknowledgement, or will things slowly, maybe in a slower tide than, say, Woody Allen or, you know, the other men that we know have exhibited very violent behavior and were able to bounce back? You know, maybe this situation is just going to fix itself all over again.
And
because it wouldn't be the first time it happened.
I mean, I think to the point of his being America's dad, I mean, that's what people find so heartbreaking and why it's so difficult for them to grapple with this idea. But the very fact that he was put on that pedestal and given that much power is the very reason why we find it so difficult to believe this of him. I mean, we set up the very conditions whereby powerful men are not held accountable if and when they sexually assault in what appears to be dozens of women in this case.
I want to wade through another nuance of this whole subject, and that is, and I'll start with you again, Nana, what does it say about us as a society and how we really feel about accusers, those who have been sexually assaulted, that it took a supermodel to add to the chorus of allegations for us to feel differently about those accusations?
I think that as a society, we want to hold on to certain ideals, and I think we like the idea as we got comfortable with the idea of Bill Cosby as Heathcliff Huxtable.
Right, but what I'm asking though is, you know, we're as a society, and what I'm wondering is, as a society, are we so quick to not believe an accuser that it has taken 20 and Beverly Johnson?
I mean, what really kicked this off was Hannibal Buress. It was a man holding him accountable. There were lots of women who came forward earlier, but it took a man saying it publicly, saying it openly, openly, not making any jokes like Tina Fey did on 30 Rock, but saying it openly before people.
Well, he's
really...
a comedian, and he did it during a set, so he was making a joke.
But I think the thing is what I was trying to say is that I think that we don't want to believe this story. I mean, this story came out in 2004. I believe Tamara Green came out and said, all these things. Autumn Jackson, the alleged, love child, came out, and we all were willing to kind of sweep it under the rug because we didn't want to believe that, because that attacks our own.
But is that unique to Bill Cosby? And now I bring in the conversation the UVA accuser, Jackie.
Absolutely.
And the whole reason, as I understand it, that she wanted to give this story was nobody was giving it the attention and perhaps not believing what she had to say.
And that's, sorry, go ahead, please.
Oh, no, I was just going to say, honestly, the whole UVA situation for me, I just find personally overwhelming and disappointing in the very fact that the Rolling Stone itself is taking back the credibility around the story itself and are expressing their own concerns about how it was told and how they put forth the information. And I feel like it really compromised Jackie. I feel like it compromised a lot of rape victims in general, and it compromised people's ability to talk about it with that credibility in the first place.
That compromise started when Rolling Stone did not verify the story.
Didn't do their due diligence.
Because I think, there were a lot of things happening. When a situation like that happens and it's so traumatic, I'm sure there's certain things that you may not remember 100% correctly. That doesn't mean that she's lying.
Right.
I think Rolling Stone did her that disservice by exposing that story to lack of scrutiny.
They did everyone a disservice.
Yeah,
they did.
Well, except for rapists. But I think what's really interesting about the Rolling Stone coverage is that most media outlets didn't cover the story until the reporting was being called into question.
That's true.
The vast majority of places that covered it when there was those discrepancies, as Rolling Stone described it, were revealed. And
so we see the culture of disbelief all over again.
Right. So stories that play into pre-existing biases get more media coverage. That's how the news works. And so what that tells us is that something that we at this table already know, which is that we have in this culture a pre-existing bias against people who allege sexual assault.
I want to be quick to say that Arise News actually did cover this story before.
Absolutely, you did.
The inconsistencies in Rolling Stone's reporting were revealed. My question is there enough faith? Because this conversation around sexual assault has been there for a long time, and there's a lot of advocates who've been working very hard for a long time to change this mindset. Do we trust the American public to be able to separate the mistake that Rolling Stone made from the allegation of rape that Jackie made?
I would say my concern is that people aren't going to. That is my concern. It's my dream that people would be able to distinguish between the mistake and the very real fact that, despite, I think the statistic is that 8% of all rape claims turn out to be false.
Somewhere between 2 and 8.
Yeah,
2 and 10.
That the majority, and also there's the fact that there's so many cases that are never actually reported.
It's so underreported. We were having a conversation here. I was even sharing a personal story. I haven't been sexually assaulted, but something that happened that I never told because I felt guilty about it. And that's all a part of the problem. We're going to have to stop this conversation, but so much more needs to be said. Nana, Ekua, Brew-Hammond, Chloe Angyal, and Monique John. Thank you all, ladies.
Thank you.
See you again soon. And you're watching Arise America.